They won.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Yes,
a lot to discuss as we get into the weekend, but we start with a great game in the Garden last night between the Lakers, who just lost by 42, and the Celtics. This is the end of the game. LeBron James, terrible play, tries to save it, gets the ball back, huge bucket there, kind of a fluky score, and then him and Kyrie go back and forth. Kyrie, huge bucket with just 10 seconds left to put him ahead. Brandon Ingram trying to get the reverse, doesn't. Ball gets knocked around, ends up in Rajon Rondo's hands, who wins the game for the Lakers. Jalen, obviously the Lakers have been in the news all season long because they've acquired LeBron James, but recently seems like a lot of the pressure of the trade rumors have kind of been hurting the locker room a little bit. This was a game that they needed, not just for positioning to get into the playoffs, but for locker room morale. What did this win? What did this one bounce of the ball, this loose ball bouncing around, finding its way to Rondo, what did that do for the Lakers?
Well, it got them closer to 500 in the stout Western Conference race, where they're a team that currently sits 10th in their conference. And Dave McMenamin did a really good job of coming on Get Up and documented how basically Rajon Rondo took a level of leadership in galvanizing the young players, allowing them to feel confident about themselves after knowing that basically either they would or would not be traded. Once it does not happen, now it's a couple of things that takes place.
Explain.
And this is from a player that's been traded and clearly been in trade rumors. When you don't get moved, you're still committed to the team, but I got to look out for myself now.
A little different.
Oh, no. I got to look out for myself now. Am I renting? Am I leasing? Do I own this place? Do I want to keep this place if I'm traded? Like, now you got to start thinking like a professional, an adult that plays basketball. And you know what else? When the game is late and Kyle Kuzma's open on the wing, instead of giving it to LeBron in the corner, I'm shooting this.
Why's that?
Instead of Ingram trying to find a way to give it to LeBron when they denied him late, you're like, I'm taking this to the hole.
Why would they make those in-game decisions based on being in trade rumors previously?
It don't start in game. It start at 3:01 when the deadline ends. It's like, oh, okay, now I got to pay attention to my value now. I got to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward to help the team win, not the other way around. And so now that those dynamics have played out, yeah, LeBron gonna get his triple-double and feel good about his game.
Yep.
Rajon Rondo, a vet, he gonna have his double-double, hit the game-winning shot. But when you look deeper into the box score, KCP and Lance, double-figure scores.
Yep.
They were playing without Lonzo Ball. They still have to integrate his dynamic back into the team. So based on the Clippers trading Tobias Harris, they gifted the Lakers a playoff spot.
They did. The Kings are still between the Lakers and their playoff spot, but I do think that the Lakers will find a way to get into the playoffs because I want LeBron James in the playoffs.
Well, you have LeBron James that basically used to be a rite of passage to make it to the finals. That shows you the difference between the East and the West. Yeah, because now they have LeBron James and they're struggling to get in the playoffs.
I was thinking earlier today,
missed 17 games.
When was the last time LeBron James was struggling to get in the playoffs?
He had never missed as many games in a regular season, though.
Ever. So that's fair. It's fair to say those things are correlated because you saw the way the Lakers played without LeBron.
No question about it. So the Boston Celtics defensively were a turnstile, by the way. They allowed the Lakers to shoot 22 threes.
A lot of open
That's
threes.
A franchise record.
How
about this? Both teams had 35 assists, which is amazing. Each of them also only had 8 turnovers. So for the Lakers, who have a tough schedule remaining, I still believe they have a chance to get in because they're really only 3 games out of the 6th spot and they can go on the run. But they won't be like a top 4 team at this point.
One thing to look at with this Lakers game, sure, it's great they won. They were terrible from the free throw line. Just terrible. Like they shot like 30% from the free throw line. And it's nice at the end of the game when the ball bounces your way and you get open shots. But a lot of times at the end of the game, you got to make it the shots from the stripe. And they just could not last night.
That's what I love about sports. Because if Rondo misses that shot, we're having totally different conversation.
It's not just even if Rondo misses that shot. That ball bounced off like 8 people on the floor before it even found its way to Rondo. It wasn't like they ran a play for an open shot for Rondo. Like, that was just bouncing off Chandler, bouncing off Tatum, right into his hands. Like, that was a lucky bounce.
No doubt about it. And the thing for it is, you lose by 40 at Indy, then you go to Boston and get down 18. If that continues, we're talking about, is Lew Walton going to finish the season?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, did LeBron destroy the psyche of his young players? And you ready for this? Kevin Durant made a comment earlier in the year, the guy LeBron took first in the draft, and he alluded to playing next to LeBron creates a toxic environment based on the media coverage, is what he meant, right?
Yep.
When you're on the free throw line in Indiana and the crowd is chanting, not Lakers, not Los Angeles, they're chanting, LeBron's going to trade you.
Mm-hmm.
And after the game, when they asked the players about it, I heard it. LeBron, did you hear it? I heard it. But you know what he didn't say? That he didn't have anything to do with whether people get traded or not. So now as a teammate, you like, oh, okay, it is what it is. He's an iconic player. He deserves that power. But I got to play for my value. I got to help us get to the playoffs because a lot of those guys will be playing in the playoffs for the first time.
It's time for Jalen Rose to once again take us behind the curtain. Amongst all the Anthony Davis trade news, team fighting to get in the playoffs, losing by 42, just all the things swirling around LeBron James.
Yep.
LeBron James was asked about his legacy and what another championship would mean to him, and he had a pretty interesting response. Let's listen.
Nothing I need to get in this league that I don't already have. So everything else, for me is just like just icing on the cake. I love, the process of everything that I go through to be able to compete every single night, put teams in position to compete for championships. But there's nothing that I'm chasing or that I feel like I need to end my career on.
So after the game, he mentioned that this was kind of taken out of context and people running with this and talking about him putting pressure on the front office, which isn't really what the question was. But what is he saying by this? There's nothing
you hear that?
I need to get.
You hear that? Beep, beep.
It sounds like someone walking back some of the comments that they made.
Beep. Here's what the Lakers are now going to do. LeBron James is going to talk into microphones. He's going to, and rightfully so, he's a seasoned veteran. He deserves, I love that LeBron always wins. I love this narrative. He really always does, on and or off the floor. So here's what now happens. Damage control. LeBron James is going to be doing interviews up in his team. He's going to be doing interviews talking about how amazing their talent is.
Of course.
Talking about how much potential they have.
Of course.
And how much he and we need them to make it to the playoffs. Here's another one. Where's Magic? Oh, Magic Johnson. Watch what I tell you. Within the next 5 or 7 days, he's going to pop up and do some national interviews, maybe even at this network.
Talk about how much he loves the young core and how they've re-energized LeBron James and their youthful energy.
Save this footage. I'm trying to tell you, this is how it works. And rightfully so.
Of course.
You have a fragile locker room. They were talking about trading 5 people. That's half the team.
And not only that that's why the trade deadline is fun, because once the deadline passes, they're on the team.
Correct.
So now that you're on the team, you're not getting traded.
Correct.
Now you're my favorites. Now you're perfect for our franchise.
And so now, instead of the young guys showing up at the bus 15 minutes early, you show up 15 seconds early. Mm-hmm. That's just how it go. I look out for me now. So instead of me passing up this good shot to get a great shot, I'm shooting this.
One thing I found interesting about these comments is, because I love LeBron. And you remember after he won the championships, he was at a camp, he got a little loose-lipped. He's like, the only thing I'm chasing now is the ghost in Chicago. Right? He said it. The only thing I'm chasing now is that ghost in Chicago. Do you know what he said in this quote? I'm not chasing anything. Do you remember when he was doing his show and he said that he was the greatest of all time? Now it's not I'm chasing Mike anymore. Now it's I'm the greatest of all time. I'm not chasing anything.
Look, Laker fans have to understand something. You are a part of LeBron James' honeymoon tour. If he's able to get a championship with you guys, great. But I probably would suggest he get an Emmy before he get a championship with the Lakers.
He's going to get a championship with the Lakers.
What you doing? Which one do you think you're going to get first, though?
Championship.
Okay.
Next, the Lakers didn't get Anthony Davis at the trade deadline, but they did trade Zubac and Beasley for Mike Muscala of the Clippers. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly. What they really did was trade 2 players for 1 player, so now they have an open roster spot. Jalen Rose, something I know that you're not the biggest fan of in the NBA, is the buyout market. Because what happens is just because the trade deadline's over doesn't mean that this is your roster as you go into the playoffs. So let's take a look at some notable players that will be buyout candidates. Matthews, Jordan, Lopez, Ellington, Cantor. Now, we don't know if all these players or these will end up in the buyout market. We also don't know if other players will end up in the buyout market. But Jalen, which one of these players could you see join the Lakers?
Anyone that's a shooter, so maybe Ellington.
Anthony? Carmelo Anthony?
No, you can't do that.
You don't think Carmelo Anthony is, it's already been reported that he's being considered?
Here's why you can't consider it. You remember when the toothpaste was out of the tube and we talked all about the trade rumors for half of the team and how LeBron was going to trade the team?
Yeah.
Then we talked about the damage control that LeBron's going to do in the media, that you're going to see Magic do in the media.
Of course.
When you sign Carmelo Anthony and he's at the scorer's table and he about to check in for Brandon Ingram and he about to check in for Kyle Kuzma, what do you think they're going to be saying under their breath?
I don't think they'll be very happy about their minutes going away because Carmelo Anthony's got 4 more months of being a professional basketball player.
And he only played 10 games this year. So he's going to take time to get in NBA shape. But then when it's time to be on the bus, when it's time to be on the plane, when it's in the locker room, they're going to be hanging like brothers, like wet clothes.
Of course.
We saw this movie in Cleveland with Dwayne Wade.
Didn't work. What ended up happening with him?
With former Laker players. Clarkson, those guys just came from LA. That does not work. So I don't believe that that's going to be the course of action. Now, if they decide to do that, that's their choice. That's probably an olive branch to say, we didn't get the Anthony Davis deal done, but we're bringing Carmelo.
We'll bring in your boy. And something tells me that something to have a conversation with Carmelo and be like, look, man, you're playing 10 minutes a game. Okay, this is how it's going to work. Not only not starting, you're playing 10 minutes a game. What we really need you to do is sit next to LeBron on the plane.
But let me say one thing, and this is a rules change. And I think one of these shows, I would love to do a list of a lot of rules that I think not only should be changed, but probably will be changed, because I think Adam Silver is an amazing commissioner. The buyout market must happen before the trade deadline.
It just feels like
not the other way around.
They shouldn't be the same. These two should be one and the same. Like, you got until mid-February to build your roster, and then after that, good luck. Maybe with some injury exceptions.
The buyout market should happen a week before the trade deadline. So now I can see who got bought out, and that will affect who makes trades and how they go down, not the other way around.
It's now time for News That Matters. There's a cat in Montana named Fluffy. Cute cat. Fluffy for fur, loved by her owners. Just a member of the family. Well, it got cold and snowy in Montana.
Cold outside.
And they lost Fluffy. They found Fluffy in a snowbank. That's Fluffy. Fluffy was frozen. And then they resuscitated Fluffy, the temperature was so low on Fluffy that they thought the Fluffy was past. And now look at Fluffy. Fluffy is back. So, Jalen, here's my question for you. Moving forward, Fluffy's relationship with her owners. Do you think Fluffy's going to be happy about the efforts that the owners went through to save her life? Or is Fluffy going to always hold a grudge because one cold day they left her in a snowbank and she had to be resuscitated from the edge of life?
Oh, Fluffy about to listen to a lot of Mobb Deep.
Yep.
Survival of the fittest.
That's where I wanted to go with this.
Fluffy also is going to be peeing everywhere.
Yeah, Fluffy's not going to be.
You know the one thing that a lot of things distinguish.
It also kind of sounds like a horror movie start.
No
too.
doubt.
It sounds like the very beginning of a horror movie.
So a lot of things distinguish the difference between cats and dogs, but at least cats are known to be more clean, right?
Sure.
They consistently use the bathroom in their litter box, right?
Yeah.
Might as well throw the litter box away.
It's a Fluffy.
Fluffy all over the crib.
Yo, this sounds like the first 10 minutes of a horror movie.
Yes.
Like, oh, Fluffy, we found Fluffy and she was almost dead, and then we brought her back in the house. Fluffy starts acting different.
No doubt.
It's going to start with a couple mice that she brings to you. Maybe a couple mice, and it's going to escalate from there.
Well, Fluffy was in New York. She see a lot of mice.
Best of luck to that family.
I was just walking down the street.
Keep a close eye on Fluffy.
The trash was taller than me.
You're tall, too. Coming up next.
I love the Big Apple.
On Jalen Jacoby. They finally televised the All-Star Draft, and there was a couple moments that we need to discuss.
Now, you're an All-Star.
Right.
Get your game on. Go play.
Who sings that song? Wait. So someone stole your ex's Range Rover. You walk over, knock on the window, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Jalen Rose from the Fab Five. I didn't mean to steal your car.
That is 199% what happened. He got out of the car, he gave me some dap, and he blended back into the crowd.
Coming to you live from the South Street Seaport District, downtown Manhattan on Pier 17, and brought to you by Heineken. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose.
What up, Dow?
We were begging for them to show the All-Star Draft last year in the NBA.
Show the draft.
We were chanting that every single day.
Show the draft.
This year on TNT, before the big Celtics and Lakers game, they showed the draft, and it did not disappoint. The best moment was when LeBron James made his first selection of the pool of reserves. Let's just take a look.
With my first pick in the second round, I'm going with Anthony Davis.
You sure you want him to be your teammate?
I'm very sure of that.
Isn't that tampering?
No.
Tampering rules does not apply on All-Star Weekend.
So it's all good fun, it's all jokes. But when he says tampering rules do not apply during All-Star Weekend, I think he means it. Because let's take a look at his roster. Let's just take a look at who he drafted. Jalen, do you notice anything about LeBron's team?
Of course I do. Most of those guys are 2019 free agents.
Yeah,
or fellow Clutch Sports
except
clients.
For James Harden. So essentially 5 of the 6 first players that he put on his team are available to join him on the Lakers. So he will be doing some tampering over All-Star Weekend. You can't necessarily prosecute him for something that you can't prove. So he's going to be in the locker room. There's not going to be cameras around. He's going to tamper. Am I going too far by saying this?
You're not going too far, but also it's a brilliant move within the infrastructure of the rules. And LeBron James has done a terrific job of balancing being iconic basketball player, but yet best friends to one of the best and rising agents in the game. Mm-hmm. So when you see him at a college game, the camera's gonna be there. And everybody like, oh, it's great, LeBron's going to support the young players. Well, actually what he's doing is something called recruiting.
Yes.
And so I appreciate the fact that he just owns it. He ain't hiding it.
No.
When they were chanting, LeBron's going to trade you in Indiana, he didn't say after the game, I ain't got nothing to do with what the front office do. He didn't say that. So when he was picking his team, he knew, I'm picking dudes that's about to be free agents.
Of course.
So I can play with them, so I can spend some time with them, so I can slap fives with them, so we can be off wax together, and I can kind of get a gauge in my own little way what this guy is thinking about his free agents.
And I think a lot of the reason that people around the league, other executives, fans, were upset about the way that the rumors of Anthony Davis going to the Lakers went is because it kind of felt like Rich Paul and LeBron James, in their eyes, were kind of strong-arming the Pelicans to send Anthony Davis to the Lakers. And let's not forget, there was that night when the Pelicans were in Los Angeles. What did Anthony Davis do after the game?
Anthony Davis in Los Angeles
had dinner
went out with LeBron
James at a restaurant in a public place.
No doubt.
Like, they could have gone to one of their houses. That could have been kept quiet.
So here's the thing, and I've said this for years on this show, and I'm talking rotation players, like the first 8 players on the team that have like staying power, that's going to be in the league 7 to 13 years or so. Those guys, I would say 200 to 250 players, are really only represented by like 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why it's discussed more as it relates to LeBron James is that he has a different relationship with Rich Paul versus how Arn Tellin or David Falk or whoever current agent right now said B might have with said player that's in the league.
Of course.
Okay, so based on that dynamic, people understand that it can give you a unfair advantage, but let's not act like agents haven't been moving and shaking the chessboard forever, putting teams and players in position. It's just that one of them now is in the other ear of the best player in the game.
NBA. And then one of those players that is represented by Rich Paul is a gentleman by the name of Ben Simmons, who was not on LeBron's team until, let's just watch this.
Is there some possible talk of a trade being made here, LeBron?
I'm proposing a Russell Westbrook for Ben Simmons trade.
What if you put Dwayne Wade in the trade? I know Ben Simmons is your guy, so I'll do it.
Got his guy on his team.
I appreciate that LeBron is the bully of this era, and he literally gets what he wants.
Oh, he does. And he's not even like coy or shy or hiding about it.
He's not. And if I'm Giannis, I would have forced him to give up more.
I like it. Giannis didn't negotiate much.
I am trying to win.
But Russell Westbrook does have 8 straight triple-doubles.
I am trying to win, though. Like, I would have made him give me 2 players for Ben Simmons.
Well, Jalen Rose. Anthony Davis didn't get moved at the trade deadline, but the Eastern Conference looks completely different. We'll show you how next. Friday night action in the NBA. The Nuggets head into Philadelphia to take on the Sixers. Big man matchup. And after that, we have another big man matchup. It's going to be Karl Anthony Towns and will Anthony Davis take on the Sixers. Big man matchup. And after that, we have another big man matchup. It's going to be Karl Anthony Towns and will Anthony Davis suit up for the Pelicans? Tune in tonight at 9:30 to find out. Prime time, Saturday Night Live. 8:30 Eastern on ABC. You get Westbrook against Harden. Big matchup in the Western Conference. And then tonight at 6 o'clock on SportsCenter, they'll be talking about what the Cowboys are going to do next year. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, trade deadline came and went. No superstar moves. But the Eastern Conference got really interesting. So we have a segment. It's called The Eastern Conference Race to Lose to the Warriors in the Finals Heats Up. Are you ready, Jalen Rose? One of the most impactful trades from yesterday involves a gentleman by the name of Marc Gasol, who's been losing in Memphis for quite some time now, and now he is on a championship contending team. He has been moved to the Raptors for Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, and a 2024 second-round pick. Jalen Rose, what does swapping out Gasol for Valanciunas do for the Raptors?
A couple of things. One, it gives them another crutch in case Kyle Lowry flames out in the playoffs for initiating offense.
Yes.
At the high post, he's a terrific passer, can make an open shot, is averaging a career high in assists. The other thing it allows them to do is have a former Defensive Player of the Year defend Joel Embiid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the main things that he's going to be able to bring to the table. And the other thing is experience. The Toronto Raptors, while they've made it to the playoffs the last couple of years, have not been successful as they thought they would be. So now as the 1 seed, 2 seed, whatever they end up, you bring in Kawhi, you bring in Danny Green. Pascal Siakam is playing like a most improved player. Serge has experience. Gasol has experience. You hope that you can now surround your team. Van Vliet is playing really well. With enough guys that understand in the playoffs you got to play different styles.
Yep.
He gives them flexibility to do that.
He's definitely a much better passer than Valanciunas. That's without question. Now, another interesting addition, the Bucks added Nikola Mirotic. It was a 3-team deal. It gets a little complicated, but basically the Pistons ended up with Don Maker, and the Pelicans ended up with Stanley Johnson, Jason Smith, and a couple second-round picks. Jalen, what does Mirotic do for the Bucks?
The great thing about having an MVP caliber player is that now I can build a roster to mask his weaknesses.
Yep.
And so one of the things that Giannis doesn't do well is
shoot the ball from distance.
So now you want to have people around them that can. You got Middleton that can make a shot.
Yep.
They brought in Lopez, who can make big-time shots from the center spot. Now you bring in another stretch 4. And also, he's tall. So when you go against the Celtics, you need interchangeable parts like they have. When you go against the Sixers,
we just got much better at
and the Raptors, you need interchangeable parts. He allows them to have another guy that can be a knockdown shooter playing alongside Giannis for a team that already is terrific at shooting the 3 overall.
Not just casual fans, but I would say most NBA fans don't even know that the Pacers are in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference. They lost Victor Oladipo for the season, but they're sitting in 3rd place. And there are now rumors, this hasn't been done yet, but it seems like Wesley Matthews, who's no longer going to be on the Knicks, could join the Pacers. Are the Pacers a serious threat to what most of us consider the best 4 teams in the Eastern Conference?
Shout out to Nate McMillan, who's done a terrific job nurturing this team. You lose Victor Oladipo.
Yep.
But yet when LeBron James and the Lakers come to town, you still beat the brakes off of them by 42 points. So that lets you know that they bring effort on a nightly basis. Turner, Sabonis, Collison, not household names, Thad Young, but yet really competitive. And now you're going to get a chance to appreciate Bogdanovich because he's going to get more shots.
Great game.
And he's going to be able to put up big numbers.
He put up big
now
numbers.
You bring in Wesley Matthews. You give him a level of confidence saying, hey, I can get some of Victor Oladipo's minutes. I can get some of his shots. I'm a defender as well. It doesn't put them in the Final 4 of the playoffs in the East, but it solidifies that the Pacers are going to not only be a playoff team, but when you look 5 and below, it's a lot of people outplaying their expectations. We can kind of anticipate who the Final 4 in the playoffs are going to be, but this does help Indiana.
Well, you mentioned it. The Sixers obviously added Tobias Harris. The Celtics stayed pat. You know, Wesley Matthews on the Pacers, Mirotic on the Bucks, and of course Gasol on the Raptors. How does this change your thoughts about the Eastern Conference? Who do you think will come out of the Eastern Conference to lose to the Warriors?
Shout to Elton Brand, who, first and foremost, usually when you don't draft a player high, you don't have to worry about him being a bust on your watch.
Yep.
So he was able to trade Markelle Fultz because he didn't pick him. Now, this year you started with Embiid and Simmons. You add Butler, and now you add Tobias Harris, and another underrated pickup, Jonathan Simmons.
Yeah.
He's going to give them versatility. He's going to give them toughness. They're going to have multiple players that can switch defensively.
He had some big playoff games for the Spurs.
And so now each team improved itself at where they were weak. Tobias Harris, I'm glad he's going to get a chance to play on this stage because people are going to see how good he is. And for 20-point scores, he have the lowest usage in the league.
Who is your favorite in the East to lose to the Warriors in the NBA Finals?
Right now, you have to say Philly.
I think so, too. I think after the moves they made, I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago, but now I would say Philly.
I said this all season. The playoff intrigue in the league is who's going to face the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals? Who's going to watch the Eastern Conference Finals?
There'll be some disappointed teams in the East.
Gonna be
there are 4
fascinating
teams
to
that
see.
all expect to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and only 2 of them can make it. Jalen Rose, you know how you can't give yourself a nickname? Can you anoint yourself the MVP? Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose. We created this segment years and years ago, and it's still with us today. It is time for Soft Move or Boss Move. Jalen Rose. After considering the possibility of shutting down Anthony Davis for the rest of the entire season, something that you suggested would happen, we now have word that Anthony Davis will in fact play for the Pelicans moving forward. Playing Anthony Davis, soft move or boss move?
Boss move.
Oh, why's that?
You told me you wanted to get traded, right?
Yeah.
A team called and offered me 5 players and 2 picks. Pretty sure a lot of other teams calling for your services. The team that had the strongest offer we didn't even call them back. We didn't return their message. You know why? Because you're not a free agent. And since you're not a free agent this summer, and playing the second half of the season helps us get closer to the playoffs. Also, you're a really dominant player, increases your value if you put up big numbers. It's best for everyone that you put on that uniform and we're paying you $20+ million to play or sit, to actually get out there and perform for our fans the rest of the season. We show you how we felt when we took you off the video. So you already know what it is.
Next, the Chiefs general manager, Brett Veach, he saw Patrick Mahomes getting buckets.
Where my home is?
We saw Patrick Mahomes getting
Where
buckets.
my home is?
He was playing rec league pickup, you know, just at the gym. Gets trapped here, double teamed. I'm like, ooh, cross, spin, buckets. We were all excited about this because that was a nice move. That's not your everyday pickup move. And Brett Veach, not that excited about it. He said, quote, "No more basketball for Pat." Soft move or boss move, shutting down Patrick Mahomes' pickup games.
When we showed that footage, do you recall what I said?
I remember exactly what you said.
I said, that's $200 million on that spin move right there. It's a boss move. And the thing is, I know people are going to say, well, there are a lot of other people that play basketball and have hobbies and things of that nature. They didn't win MVP this year.
No.
He did. And based on the fact that he's a really good basketball player, there are other ways for him to still work out without having to play against guys where he can step on somebody's foot and turn an ankle, bust an Achilles, hurt a knee. And how about this? In basketball, you use your arms a lot, don't you?
Yeah, shoulder hurts. You're trying to block shots, swinging your arms around.
And people are swinging at your arm too to try to block your shot, to try to reach at the ball. What I did not like is the next part of his quote when he was like, they nipped that in the bud. I think he could have kept that to himself.
Yeah, he said
I didn't like that part.
He said that. Sometimes you just have to flex a little bit.
That was a little
I'm in charge.
extra.
I'm in charge. I nipped it in the bud.
That was extra.
We nipped it in the bud.
Sit down, eat your slice of pizza, and be
we
quiet.
tell our players what to do. We nipped it in the bud. Next, I can go both ways in this one. I really want your honest answer on this. Giannis Antetokounmpo, last night in the game, on a breakaway. He's got one person in front of him. Look at this. Ooh, does the Euro, dunks, gets excited. And then, oh, wait a second. Wait, did he just, wait, if you read lips, Jalen Rose, I know you read lips.
Professional read lip.
When he, at this part you can't see his lips, when he slaps his chest right there, do you know what he says?
I'm the mofo MVP.
That's what it looks like he says. So, touting yourself as the MVP before the All-Star break, soft move or boss move?
You got to believe something. Why not believe in me?
I don't know, Jalen. I'm going soft move.
LeBron James says he's the best. Kevin Durant says he's the best.
No, it doesn't.
Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Steph Curry say they're the best.
Not really.
Anthony Davis says he's the best.
No, they don't do this.
I bet Paul George feels like he's the best.
They feel that way, but they don't say these things.
I have no problem with the leading candidate for MVP doing a boss move by a slight step, dunking all over the Washington Wizards, letting his fans know that I'm the best in the game.
Here's what I would prefer. He lets other people call him the MVP.
So you want to be like,
no, you can dunk, you can do your thing, you can talk your mess, but you don't have to say you're the MVP because here's what I feel.
Yes, you do.
I feel like
yes, you do.
He felt like he had the MVP wrapped up about 6 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden, James Harden starts doing what James Harden is doing, and now he feels a little bit challenged. So now he's trying to just put it out there. Don't let James Harden threaten you, Giannis. Just let other people call you the MVP because you don't get a vote. Everybody else does. That's who's going to tell you who the MVP is.
Well, everybody does not get a vote. It's probably 250 total people that actually vote. I'm one of those people, and right now, he's the front runner.
I disagree.
It's a lot of basketball.
James Harden is the MVP of the league right now.
James Harden don't lead his team in so many multiple statistical categories like he does.
Just the ones that matter.
Yeah, he leads them in points, shots,
assists,
turnovers, missed field goals.
Okay.
Missed threes.
Okay. You're
He
right.
said
You're
it.
right. You're right. James Harden's a terrible basketball player. You're right.
He said
No,
it.
you're right. I appreciate your analysis. This one's interesting, right? Delta and Coca-Cola came together.
We love to fly in his shows.
So you fly a lot, right? And when they give you, sometimes you'll
On
have
Delta, too.
Sometimes you'll have a glass of wine in your first class lay flat seat before the plane takes off. I know you sleep the entire time, but underneath that glass of wine is a napkin. Mm-hmm. And they start giving away these napkins because you're on a plane full of interesting people. And hey, you never know. Look at this. They want you to write down your name and your phone number. Be a little old school. Write down your number and give it to your plane crush. You never know. Huh? Encouraging people to pass flirty notes on the plane. Soft move or boss move?
Soft move.
This is a real soft move.
This is a soft move. This is so thirsty.
It's, you know what? This is because I've been in this business a long time. I know how this works. It sounds good in the meeting. It sounds good in the meeting. The whole like be a little old school, like, oh, everyone's using dating apps. Like, let's take it to the old school. Let's have them. You know what? Let's just build a community on the plane. It'll get strangers talking to each other, and maybe we'll make some connections, and we'll have people find love. And this is gonna be so good for our business. But they didn't think about how it was really gonna play out.
Take it from somebody that was born in 1973
Okay.
and actually remember the days when I would pass notes in middle school. Do you like me? Yes, no, or
boxes.
maybe.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And also take it from someone that signs a lot of autographs. You can't write on a napkin.
It's hard to write on a napkin. That's fair. There's also not pens available. But for me, I know how this is going to play out.
The napkin tears when you write with a pen.
I know how this is going to play out. There's not going to be too many women writing down their names and numbers and handing them out to dudes. There's going to be 1 or 2 women on the plane that end up with 15 napkins apiece.
Correct.
That's how this is going to play out in real life. And you know what they don't want? Napkins being given to them. You don't know if they're in a relationship. You don't know what the relationship status is. It's rude. It's rude.
Correct. And it's almost a reflection of social media. If guys are enthusiastic about a woman, they have no problem thirst trapping, putting it out there really fast on IG, getting it in the comments or whatever. Women don't necessarily do that. They're a little more calculated.
You know what?
About dealing with people they may be
I don't like
interested
talking
in.
to the people that sit next to me on the plane, maybe for the last 5 minutes of the flight, but what I don't want is some dude handing me a note with his name and number on it and then him just sitting across the aisle from me staring at me for 3 hours. I don't want that. That's not helping.
Looking at you like James
Yeah,
Harden
exactly.
when you walk behind
Yes,
that
that
person
is
doing the
not
interview.
helping my flight experience, Delta. I do not want that. I do not want that at all. Stop staring at me like that, Jalen. When we come back, Wilt Chamberlain set some records in the NBA that people thought would never, ever be broken.
On and off the floor.
One is about to be tied. This weekend, we'll tell you who is going to do it. Jalen Rose, there's been so much discussion of late about Kyrie Irving's future with the Boston Celtics. Well, Boston GM Danny Ainge went on the Sports Hub and he addressed it. He said, quote, "The way I view the situation is that I think a lot of people, because of Kyrie's announcement at the beginning of the year, thought that it was a marriage. And I think it's more like an engagement. And we're going to get married on July 1st. I think the engagement is still on as far as I know." Okay. Is this someone who truly believes Kyrie is going to stay with the Celtics, just telling that to the world? Or is this someone trying to manage the message and tell his fans that as far as I'm concerned, Kyrie's going to stay with us long term?
Danny Ainge has done such a magnificent job as the general manager of the Boston Celtics by fleecing other GMs across the league that he currently has the assets to trade for Anthony Davis, but can't because he has Kyrie Irving.
Okay.
How about that? For doing an amazing job. But here's also what could happen. They could look up in another 6 months. Kyrie Irving could leave via free agency. We'll see if that becomes a sign and trade or not. And Anthony Davis's dad already came out and said he doesn't want him to play for the Celtics. So do they now give assets to the Pelicans to get a guy that may be a one-year rental? For him now to go on wax, what that shows me, feeling a little pressure.
So you think
he
he's
doesn't
saying
know.
this? He's saying this just to kind of calm the Boston Celtics faithful? Or do you think he's saying this because he truly believes Kyrie's going to stay?
He's saying this to calm the Boston Celtics faithful because he doesn't know what Kyrie gonna do. That's an absolute fact. If they make it to the NBA Finals, then and they win the championship, he probably stays. But what if they flame out in the first round?
I feel like Kyrie and Kawhi both will make their decisions after they see how far their respective teams went in the playoffs. And I think that if either of those teams bounce in the second round, those players are gone. If they go to the NBA Finals and give the Warriors a run, those players will stay. One person we know who's going to be on their team for the foreseeable future is a gentleman by the name of Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook last night got a triple-double. It is his 8th straight triple-double. Jalen Rose, the last 8 times he put on his sneakers, he got a triple-double. And people don't even talk about it that much. The record from 1950s and 60s is Wilt Chamberlain had 9 straight triple-doubles. Russell Westbrook, I guarantee you he's going to at least tie that. He's getting a triple-double the next time that he suits up. Jalen Rose, are people overlooking greatness?
The reason why people are overlooking Russell Westbrook's triple-doubles is because he was the first person to do it since the Big O. And since he's become the modern-day version, we feel like it's commonplace and we taking it for granted. That he's leading the league in assists. As a point guard, is leading his team in rebounds, but in an era of pace and space where everybody has fallen in love with the three-point shot, is really struggling shooting the ball.
He is.
So it's hard for everybody to look deeper into the box score. How about this? 2 seasons ago, he shot 83% from the free throw line. This year, around 63%.
How does that happen?
You normally don't see players
How does it
off
happen?
that much in 2 years.
How does that happen, Jalen?
From the neck up. It's from the neck up. His shooting woes are affecting his confidence from the field and from 3, and they play out when he gets to the free throw line.
Well, Jalen, one thing you noticed about the NBA yesterday, I'm really glad you brought to the program today. Because you noticed a lot of players were bringing their children to the games. Here we got Rondo one-on-one from the same spot he hit the game winner, taking on Junior. And then this is a great pass. You talked about Russell's assists. Look at this assist from his son. I'll finish that up for you. I got you. And there were some other players that also did it. Thad Young brought his son, who's a little older, still getting crossed up. Jalen Rose, a couple things. Number one, what does this tell you?
What this tells me is that the NBA has allowed its players more access with their family and friends. Somebody that's been in the league a long time, things used to be a lot more